Okay. Well, there's 6 minutes I'll have to trim off. All right, let's go. Welcome, everybody, to the I'm Clifford Today show. We've had a hectic starting this day, and it's mostly my fault because we had a late start
And it was my
getting
fault.
recording. Yeah, we've had some technical issues on Nick's end, but fingers crossed we'll get through it. So yeah, this is kind of weird because like Riverside is an affiliate of this show, and so I don't think it's a great look when we have technical issues. So, but hey. Anyways, so we've got a big episode for you guys today. I'm super excited. I'm sure that's a lot of people, you see the title and you see the thumbnail, and so that's what I'm assuming that everyone is here for. Welcome to any new viewers and such. It's going to be fun. So, but before we get to our interview with John James, we've got a couple things to go through. Oh, also, why don't you guys introduce yourselves? I plan on doing this every episode, but Joshua, why don't you introduce yourself and, like, I don't know, shout out your X account or whatever.
Hey everyone, it's Josh. Been a while since I've been on here. Miss you guys. I'm glad to be back and be with
Mhm.
Nick and Clifford. Appreciate it again for the opportunity. Again, if you want to follow me on X, it's Bowser 88. And let's get into it. I'm ready.
Fire Bowser 88.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Yeah, we have missed you for the past couple episodes, so it feels like it's been forever.
Yeah.
Someone else we missed in the last episode is Nick Gundy. Nick Gundy,
Yeah.
welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nick, learning to be Orthodox Christian first, everything else second. And I am now on Threads. I have no choice.
Oh
I'm on Threads
no.
now under Nick dash underline dash Gundy. Also on Instagram, Nick dash Gundy. On Facebook at Nick Gundy and the Nick Gundy Experience. And on Twitch at twitch.tv/ the Nick Gundy Experience. And I also have a YouTube channel under Nick Gundy, and I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, etc. Also under Nick Gundy, and on YouTube, I publish videos on a weekly basis. I said basis.
Basis. Weekly basis.
Basis. I publish videos on my YouTube channel on a weekly basis, mostly on Fridays. Started incorporating YouTube Shorts, and in my YouTube channel, I recently released a brand new original, which is pretty much a rough cut of what I had, and slowly polishing it up, all stuff, and yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Right on. Do you just memorize all of your links? All your usernames and such?
Kind of. It was just like by memory. I was like, well, I do know I'm there, and I know I'm there, and I know I'm there. Guys, you gotta pray for me. I'm slowly about to crack and make a TikTok.
Uh-oh.
Don't fall into it.
Well, I technically have a TikTok account, but I have not logged into it for like a year.
Yeah, just doing this. Yeah, it just be for the sake of publishing like excerpts of what I do as a musician and some of my favorite covers and originals, etc. So
yeah,
see how it goes.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I reached
the point where I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I technically have a TikTok account, and there was a couple videos from like when I first started the show. There are clips from episodes that are on there, but I haven't been bothered to go back on there, especially since I don't even have a smartphone anymore. So it's kind of difficult. I don't know if I can upload through computer or not, but
you can.
You probably could.
Probably. But yeah, if you guys are on TikTok,
know.
you can find that account, but I won't be uploading on it. But yeah, right on. Oh, gross, Nick.
I
I'm gonna
had
cut
to.
that
Hey,
out.
hey, listen. It's gonna. I'm recording my audio through OBS, so I already muted it. So I got that prepared. So you're
Oh,
welcome.
okay. Thanks. Nick just we just had to experience that, not anyone else though.
I
So
forgot what I was happening.
thanks for that. It's all good. I
Sorry,
mean,
guys.
better
I'm out
out
of
than in,
practice
I
today.
always say. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, so first of all, before I forget, because I've done that before, and it's interesting considering when we were talking before recording about what we're doing for my humble opinion. The album of the week is "What a Day" by Phil Keaggy from I think it
Yeah.
was I think it was his first album. Is one of his earliest albums, that's for sure. But it's a classic from the 70s. Um, we were just talking about well, we won't get into it really, but we were talking about whether we wanted to talk about the new instrumental album from Phil Keaggy and Jeff Johnson, and we decided not to, and we won't really disclose why. But I personally love Phil Keaggy, and it's a great classic record. Josh, I assume that you probably have listened to a little bit of Phil Keaggy.
I have.
Yeah, you have that old school taste, so I
Yeah,
figured that you had.
yes, I like that old school taste. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm familiar with
it's
him.
great. Yeah, it's funny because there was kind of an urban legend going around that what's his name, uh Jimi Hendrix. um there was this rumor that someone had like interviewed him and asked him, so what does it mean to be what does it feel like to be the greatest guitar player in the world? And he's apparently said, I don't know, ask Phil Keaggy. And apparently that never happened. I,
Oh,
it
oh.
was
Oh.
a because someone had asked Phil Keaggy. Apparently, people knew about it, and he's like, "Hey, did that ever happen?" He's like, "No, I don't know what people are talking about when they say that." So, yeah, because I remember that was a story that my dad told me
Hmm.
because we talked about how great of a guitarist he was, especially considering he lost one of his fingers
Hmm.
somehow,
Hmm.
but he was still great. But yeah, so What a Day by Phil Keaggy. Let's see what else we got. Podwood Forecast. Be sure to check out my other podcast that I do with my friend Mitchell. We upload an episode every once in a blue moon. So we'll get around to a new episode soon eventually. We are currently at 494 subscribers. Uh,
Yay.
big thanks to the most recent episode, which we'll talk about. But yeah, welcome to all the new subs, and thanks for subscribing. And we're getting real close to that 500 mark, so help us out, And I plan on doing something special for 500. So yeah, thanks so much,
Mm.
guys. Also, be sure to check out. I announced in the last episode the new Sherwood Forest single, "Feed My Lambs." Please go check it out, especially since Nick here lays down on the bass in that song, and it's
Nice,
really
nice,
great.
nice.
Mm.
So, and it features our friend Corey from Saint of Pine Hills, who's been on the show before. And it was mixed and mastered by Spencer Annis from Honeyverb Productions. He's produced a lot of really good indie music. He's produced for Jonathan Allen Wright, who we've talked about on the show. So, yeah, Feed My Lambs by Sherwood Forest. Check it out on all the music platforms. Um, and yeah, so let's get into reading some comments. The
Ooh.
last episode, me and Josh were just talking about this. The last episode did really well, surprisingly well, considering. Because I was also saying this, it's like I never really know what episode is going to do well, no matter how I can expect it to or not. I most My biggest expectations kind of go towards the interview episodes because it's like, oh yeah, the guest is going to bring on a lot of new viewers and listeners, which they do. Most of my guests, they share the episodes and they're very kind about that. But I don't really ever expect um, the topical episodes to do so well, because it's like, why would what's the draw to those episodes? But our last episode, entitled, um, what was it? We're making everyone mad with this episode. Uh, which surprisingly we didn't make anyone mad, so that's good. That's an accomplishment right there, and something I did not expect. But yeah, we talked about John Cooper from Skillet, and well, it was supposed to talk about their latest track, their latest single, Unpopular. Well, I guess it's not even their latest anymore. They came out
No,
with a
all
new
that
one.
matters is their
um
latest.
yeah, it's one of their latest.
Yeah.
And But it's funny because we didn't really, also we had Jean-Pierre on the episode, so thanks to Jean-Pierre. He'll be joining us again some point in the future, but he just couldn't join us for this episode. But we had a great talk about it, and it's funny because we talked mostly about John Cooper than we talked about the actual song. So I thought that was
Well, I
funny.
didn't
I
listen
didn't.
to that one
Yeah.
either.
It's I mean, John Pierre actually texted me later. He's like, "Hey, I actually listened to the song now, and oh boy." so yeah,
Yeah.
so we talked about that for a minute, and then we talked about Aaron Stone from My Epic and his recent comments on the Black Sheep podcast. And so it was an interesting conversation, just kind of talking about those two. Like, they were like, John Cooper and Aaron Stone seem like that they're opposite ends of the spectrum. There was a lot of talk about fundamentalism, and talked about progressive Christianity and such, because that was kind of the concerns about Aaron Stone's comments. So yeah, there were some comments on those videos. Did you guys get a chance to check that one out? Did you have any comments on it?
Well, I'm ready to actually catch up and share my opinion after listening
Yeah.
to you and Jean Pierre's opinion, which were pretty good. But of course, you guys, Clifford knows me the best, so he has a slight idea what I'm about to say. Are you ready?
Yep. Let's go for it.
Look, fam, fundamentalism, progressivism, you know what those are? They're isms. There ain't nothing good about isms. Toss them. Both of them have good intentions, but both of them also lack humility. Straight up, that's it.
I get that.
Because one deserve. Because as I see it, it's more of a one's a more love of law and principle. The other one is making an idol more of loving our neighbor, a little bit more than Christ. When our love of neighbor should be a reflection because of our own love of Christ to others, and love.
Yeah.
And true love, and this is, and we've all experienced it. True love does not leave you where you are.
Preach.
It's transformed because it's transformed.
That's good.
because it is not self-serving. It is not affirming, but it desires the goodness of love desires the goodness of others, and it's something that's always reciprocated to and from. So it's like, how it is with, like, when you match energies with somebody, and like sometimes when it's a good fit and sometimes it's not always a good fit. But God doesn't choose favorites at all, because he desires unity with everybody. And it's our job, it's my job as well, to desire unity with him. Because love is not be nice to people and do what you want. Love is deny yourself and take up your cross.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do some things you don't. I'm gonna have to do things I don't like, but it's for the sake, but it's for my sake, and it's for the greater good. So that way it's still the greater good for others.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like I acknowledge others as people. They are icon. They're all icons of God, but they're those that are choosing not voluntarily choosing not to, and there are times that I choose not to do, and I'm still learning how to do it because, like, honestly, I'm still I'm still spiritually a baby, and I don't have that faith of a mustard seed right now.
Mm. It's smaller than a mustard seed.
Yeah. If we all did, we'd be able to move mountains within a split second.
Right.
But we can't.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah.
Let's just make and do with what we can.
Mm.
We have to work.
Agreed.
We have to, because there's a priest. I can't remember his second name. Father Moses. No, it was Father Turbo. He said in one of his homilies, your desire to save Western civilization and America is not going to save your soul. What's going to save your soul is growing in your relationship with Christ. Because we are all, because people lately, I mean it's been like this forever. We desire the change in others. We desire to convince, coerce, however we can. But all for what? Are we trying to get everybody to know God? Well, yeah, but like the dream aim is like trying to get to a destination where we're not even at the end of it yet, really. So we have
constantly working towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For Saint Seraphim of Sarov shares, and it's still a very good quote. Acquire interior peace, and 1,000 around you will be saved. We have to be, and I need to be continually working on myself, be accepting of what I am in my best and my worst, and keep surrendering it to God. No matter how stubborn I can be, and I am still a bit stubborn.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Yeah. Because
Very
I
well
can testify
said.
for myself that, like, because of choosing God and finding Him in the fullness of the Orthodox Church, I'm definitely not the same person as I was a year ago, or even a couple of months.
That's good. We should all aspire for that growth.
Yep. So there's my opinion about it.
Well, thanks. We're already starting this episode off real deep, and I love it. I appreciate it, Nick. You had actually left a comment on the video.
Yeah, I did that.
You said, y'all are always forgetting the Nicene Constantinopolitan Creed.
Because you always are.
Which is my fault for being absent. It's true. I mean, that's the most important thing when it comes to unity in the church. Well, one of the most important things. But yeah. Yeah, so it was we should have had you on, but it was still a great conversation, and
I'm sorry. I'm always sorry on my end that it didn't work out.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we make it work, and so I appreciated JP's insight on all of it. Which speaking of JP, we had a comment from Garrett Godfrey, who he is over from the Good Patrons podcast. I would recommend you guys check that out. He said, "Great episode. I'm with JP. Big fan of Holy Post and not so much a fan of Cooper's demeanor. I'm with Clifford too. Cooper's new book title is bad. Pure virtue signaling, dog whistle kind of stuff. I think I agree with JP's perspective on Cooper, which, come on, Garrett, what was like? I feel like we had this kind of same perspective, but I mean, I guess JP came off a little bit more strongly than I do. It's like, I guess my opinion on John is that, like, there's a lot that we agree with, but it's more the manner of, like, some of the things that he says and like how he goes about it and such. Just comes off really strong, and it's just like I'd like to talk with him and like see where we meet in what the things that we agree on. But um yeah, I think that we would agree on more than people would think. Um but yeah, that's just kind of him. He just kind of comes off strong, and the music kind of has been representing that more lately. And it's like I don't know, it's kind of a turnoff. But um also he talked about the Holy Post, which is he mentioned the Holy Post, which is Phil Vischer's podcast, and we talked about it like briefly in the last episode. And it's like, because I used to love the Holy Post. I listened to it back in the day. In fact, I listened to it back when it was called the Phil Vischer podcast before they changed it. And I, me personally, I had to stop listening to it because they, and I kind of mentioned this in the last episode, and I wanted to elaborate. It was during the like presidential elections and in 2016, and
Hmm.
while at the time, I guess I would have considered myself more liberal than I am now in terms of politics and such. Um, my parents, like they were voting for Trump, and I understood why they were voting for Trump. But on the Holy Post, they were saying they went out of their way to kind of like villainize evangelical Trump voters, and like saying that they're racist and stuff. And I'm like, but my parents aren't racist or or bigoted in any way. And so I don't know, it just kind of turned me off. And then they kind of come off strongly to like people like John MacArthur and such. And so I don't know, I just kind of had to stop listening. And and it turned out years later Phil Vischer kind of has some wonky views on abortion and such. So yeah, I mean, I get why people like it. And it probably goes into like what JP said in the last episode, how like he's from the South and I'm from Illinois. In the South, everyone is mostly like very conservative over there. And here in Illinois, it's kind of, it's very much less that. And so, um, my natural reaction is to probably be, is to be more conservative and to rebel kind
Yeah,
of
we
against
have a
that.
weird tossed salad of a state.
Yeah, yeah. Toss salad is a good way to put it, and so it kind of causes us to be a little bit more firm in what we believe. So I get it, and I'm not saying that like Phil Vischer's not a brother or anything, but I just kind of have some issues with things that he says. Granted, I haven't listened in a while. They've changed their panel of co-hosts and such, and so, but yeah. Um, let's see. Comment from Eric Martinez says, and the next guest after John James will be Peter Furler, perhaps. LOL. Hopefully, that would be really cool. I'd have to reach out to him sometime and see if I could get a hold of him. Um, but Also, JP left a comment and said, "Bro, the way you superimposed jerk over my first take. Loved chatting with you, man. Anytime you need to talk about something spicy, I'm there." So, what he's talking about, and I don't know if anyone really noticed, but there was one time that he accidentally let a bad word fly out. And so
Oh yeah,
he did another take where he said jerk instead. And so I just took that word and put it over the first time that he said the bad
that
word.
was funny.
So it doesn't even really sound like that he said anything. So it just sounds like that he said jerk twice. So,
Unless you can read his lips pretty well.
right. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I don't really mind, but like around here, we're trying to keep my channel family friendly, as much as we can. So, yeah, I thought that would be funny. Also, another comment from Jive Tab, aka Chase Tremaine, says, "You say you're making everyone mad with this episode, but I'm waiting to see if I get angry due to your main content or due to your review of my new album."
Yeah.
And so Chase Tremaine, he's been on the show before as a guest. He's on from the JFH podcast, and he's a solo artist as well. And he came out with a recent little mini album about his daughter, and me and JP talked about it in the last episode. And me and JP had some criticisms. Mostly, JP had more criticisms than me. I mostly really liked the album, and he couldn't really get into it. And so Chase responded, and he replied to his comment. Um, and so he's got a little bit of a long comment, but we're gonna read it anyways. Um, he says, "I ain't mad, and I fully acknowledge that the project won't be your thing and or many people's things. I'm just trying to tackle the odd phenomenon where it seems like a lot of people convince themselves early on in the album that they're listening to a full album of soft and sweet lullabies and seemingly miss the fact that Making Memories has tempo changes, key signature changes, and one of the most raging guitar riffs that I've ever put to tape. But Clifford, as for your main criticism, I'm with you 100%. I don't like the sound of my virtual instruments and had to fight with myself as to whether to keep those in there, which that was my main criticism. He used virtual instruments from whatever recording software, and it just didn't sound like real instruments. So that was my main criticism. He said, "My home recording setup and my sound library are both pretty limited right now, but here's a fun fact. I intentionally decided to not use acoustic guitar on any of, I guess it's called Vivian 1, Vivian 1's 10 tracks, which I thought it was Vivian I." He said, "Which, FYI, you correctly realized at the end that it's pronounced Vivian 1." Okay. uh, which would have been easy to default to for many of these songs. And I love that it pushed me towards piano and electric guitar throughout the album instead. And one last note, I have no plans for this to be a yearly series, but my plan is to go Adele style with the naming, numbering conventions if slash when I make another album or EP for Vivian or for a future child, where the project would be named based on my kid's age at the time. So the next release could be Vivian 4 or Sun 2 or whatever. So so yeah, um, I appreciate the kind response. I mean, we didn't hate on the album at all, but I understand him, explaining some things and appreciate it. I personally think that it's a fun little album, and um, it's a good perspective on parenting and brings a good light to parenthood and such. So as always, thanks Chase for the feedback, for the comments, and I'm glad that you didn't get too mad or anything. Um, and I think that is it. Thanks so much on the comments on the last video, last episode. This The last episode did so well that it's I'm pretty sure it's the most viewed episode of this year, and it's definitely the most viewed episode since this show transitioning from being a live stream show to what it is now. So thank you guys so much, and keep it coming. And I guess it just shows that spicy topics do well on YouTube. So yeah,
Spicy lore.
yeah, spicy, spicy, spicy. Anyways, yeah. So without further ado, we're gonna get into the interview with John James, which I'm really, really excited about. I think I've already talked about it a lot, even before the episode. Um, and we'll give some comments after the interview, but one thing I realized that I do with interview episodes is that I rarely ever give like a proper introduction to who the guest is. So that's what I'm going to do. So for any of you guys who don't know who John James is, John James was the original lead singer of the Newsboys, technically a founding member, even though he didn't really form the group. Uh, from what I remember, Peter Furler and their guitar player at the time, George Perdiccas, if that's how you pronounce the name, they asked him to join and be the lead singer. And so he did. And he was in the band for, I don't know, probably a good 10 years. And he was there from the beginning up until their album Take Me to Your Leader, which, by the way, is my favorite album of all time. So you can imagine how special this interview really was. And so he left the band around that time. The story was at the time was that he was leaving for ministry purposes to pursue a career in ministry. The actual story was he had developed a an addiction to drugs and to alcohol, and his marriage was falling apart, and was dealing with a lot of depression and such, and spiritual issues. And so he needed to step away from the band to focus on that. And he has an amazing testimony about that. He came back to Christ, and he actually went into ministry, and started preaching and church ministry and all that. And he has an incredible ministry with his wife. And he at the time he said that he was never going to make music again until this year he made the announcement that he was going to make a solo album, which is the first music that he has created in over 25 years since leaving the Newsboys. And so we talked about it on the show, and he found that video of us talking about it, and he reached out to me, and so we made this interview happen. So I'm super excited to show you guys this interview. I'm not sure. We might be getting into a break right now because we're kind of around the 30-minute mark. So if we are getting into a break, stick around after the break and watch the interview with John James, and then we'll be back after that. Any comments before we get into it, guys?
Let's do it.
I'm ready.
All right, cool. Let's go, as the kids say, as the gamers say.
Yeah.
This time on the Podwood Forecast.
He does.
If you can't catch a rat, you never gonna ride it. Can't push me out fighting.
Cough core.
Never gonna give it up. No.
All right, next question. How old then in limit cut? What the?
4.
No, that is not an option.
Anyways, I was at lunch and I have like a very strong memory of legitimately getting in a fight with another kid. Not like a physical fight. We were like sitting, just like arguing over
Flying
who was like
fists.
a bigger Spyro fan. And one of my reasons for being the bigger Spyro fan was I told him, well, purple's my favorite color. And he was like, oh man, he's like, dang it, red is my favorite color. Shoot. And I was lying. Green was my favorite color, but I lived the lie of purple being my favorite color, and it is now
the truth come out on this podcast.
As a kid, it's my favorite color now. Darkness imprisoning me all around me.
Oh, I see absolute horror.
See, I don't know, for some
Listen
reason.
to the Podwood Forecast wherever podcasts are found.
Guys, I just got done with a video call interview for the show, and I have to say that it was like the smoothest experience ever. Didn't have any issues or anything, and the video came out almost perfect. And do you know why? It's because I used Riverside. Riverside is your online recording studio where you can record a conversation with any guest online. You can easily record podcasts and videos in studio quality from anywhere, all from your browser or their mobile app. All you have to do is get your setup ready, send your guests a link for them to join, have them join from their phone or their computer, and just chat away. A lot of podcasts that you listen to are probably using Riverside, honestly. What sets Riverside apart is that a recording of your audio and your video is happening locally on your computer. So even if your connection isn't that good, it doesn't ruin the entire recording or anything. Once you've finished recording, you will get the individual tracks of each speaker and also a combined one. You'll receive all the raw files, including that Pepsi crystal clear uncompressed audio and up to 4K video. There's also lots of really cool features where you can edit your video right in their site. So, you're a YouTuber, a podcaster, or streamer, or a content creator of any kind, and you want to have high quality conversations with your guests, please use my link in the description and sign up for Riverside. If you want to support me and the channel, please use my link since I end up getting a cut from the sales. I'm not joking. Please support me. Sign up for Riverside and start recording today.
Hey you, are you a Christian artist, musical artist, or a musical artist who is a Christian? Well, you got music, that you made, you got music that you're trying to get out there. Do you want it to be on my show? Well, it can be, and here's how. You go to the link in the description, submit a form, fill that all out, send me your music, and we'll get the song of your choice on this segment, the Spotlight segment, and the whole world will hear your music, and it's gonna be great. And I'm out of breath for some reason. Be a Spotlight artist today, maybe not today, in the next episode, but it's gonna be fun. It's completely free. All I ask is that you promote the show, promote the episode that your song is on, and that's it. That's all I ask. But I want to support you. I want to support other Christian artists and get your stuff out there. So, yeah, let's do it, baby. Spotlight artist, become one. Be it. Yeah, that's the ad.
But today, of course, we're gonna talk about your recent announcement with the music and what you've been going through, through the 25 plus years since leaving the Newsboys and such. But one question I just want to get out of the way, as a fan, and this is something that I don't really hear a lot of people talking about. But so. Newsboys, Down Under the Big Top. When are we going to get a sequel to that?
Oh man, we didn't think there was going to be a first one. I think someone in marketing at the record label must have come through with under budget, and they had money, and I don't know.
It's like, hey, we can make a movie.
Yeah, we can make a movie. I'm kind of the belief, mate. Musicians should stay musicians and not try to be actors, and actors should stay actors and not try to be musicians. Was it the movie? Look, it was, man. If there was a cheese meter, it was on 11. But it was still fun to do, and as cheesy and as ridiculous as the movie was, hey, at least I can say, woo, I made a movie, good or bad. But it was a lot of fun, and doing it and looking back on the great memories and stuff. I think probably one of the most nerve-wracking experiences was on our debut night in Nashville, where the label had hired a cinema where we were sitting there.
The label had what? Sorry, you cut out there for me.
The label had rented a movie cinema to debut the movie, and it was by invite only, and everyone blah 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 was there, and it's packed out, and it's man, now I had a small smidgen of how actors feel.
Yeah.
Sitting there waiting for the reaction of the crowd, and it's really uncomfortable when it's meant to be a really funny part and no one laughs.
Oh gosh.
And you're sitting there and you're thinking, my goodness, how long till this is over? But hey, at least we did it. It was a crazy experience, and it was a lot of fun.
Was
So
it
in regards to a sequel, I don't think so, mate.
Man, well, see, I have a concept idea for a sequel, but so that premiere experience, like, was it really bad? Like, was it really?
It wasn't
like,
bad.
that?
It was just really uncomfortable because I think
Sure.
as gifted and talented as Steve Taylor is, I think it was an experience, mate.
Sure, yeah.
It was a fun experience to make the movie, but probably wasn't the greatest. One of the most memorable experiences, opening movie nights for me.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, personally, I mean, I grew up with that movie. That was actually
Yeah.
what I mean, when I was a kid, like, my sisters, they would turn on the radio, and like songs like Step Up to the Microphone and Love Liberty Disco would be playing, and those were, for some reason, those two songs, like, I really was attached to. And so one night they brought home this VHS tape, and they said, "Hey, this is the band that makes those two songs that you really like." And they put it on, and I was like, what is this? And it was history from there, because like that was the first time where there was like a face to the song, to the band,
Right.
and it was, I was just sold. I was a diehard Newsboys fan ever since then. And it's so much fun, and you said it does look like that you guys had a lot of fun. And yeah, it's incredibly cheesy, but it's like you guys knew that it was cheesy, and that's what makes it great. It's that like totally self-aware kind of humor that that I think is fantastic. And I think so the idea that I had for a sequel of what you guys could do is that, it's been years since the events of, the circus and everything. And I don't know, someone is in need of some like financial need, and they're like, hey, what if we got the band back together and did the circus again? And like,
Right.
it would be the current Newsboys, and like, the new members like Michael Tate and Adam Agee, they'd be in it, but you'd get like Peter Furler and Phil Joel back, and they're like, yeah, you know what, let's do it. So I don't know.
I think if you were in a position to be a producer and actually make that happen, if you could cross it over actually to kind of like a Nacho Libre, where we actually go off and join a wrestling sort of environment, where because then that would be cool. Because I'd really love to see some of the band members, especially Peter, in really stretchy wrestling pants. That would be pretty cool.
Dude, absolutely. Yeah, so maybe not the circus again, but just something entirely different. I don't know. I think it's something that I miss about like that era of Christian music, is just like having fun like that.
I think it'd be. I don't think you would see that today. I could be totally wrong. I think back then, kind of, sometimes we never took ourselves seriously because we were crazy enough to actually make a really cheesy movie like that and think, hey, someone might think it's cool. But I think today, with market, everyone's the level of, we have to keep up the facade of we are just so cool. I don't know if you would. You might. I could be totally wrong. And next year or this year, a band might make a movie like that. But I don't know. It's kind of like a different time now.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, but I think that's the reason why it needs to happen. I don't know. But yeah, anyways, I just never hear like any of the band really ever talk about that, and so I just needed to bring it up as a fan. So you were a founding member of the Newsboys, and you were in it for like what, like was it like 15 years?
15 or 16 years, crikey, is a while. It was from the early days. Oh, crikey! Look at that technology, mate.
It's all good. Nothing to see here.
Now the viewers will know we're live, mate. No edits here.
That's
it was,
okay.
from the early days in the garage, annoying the neighbors. And the last album I did with the band, touring at the album, was the Step Up to the Microphone tour, which was still to this day, I think, one of the most amazing tours that was out there.
Yeah.
And definitely with the show and the antics and the costume changes and the visual and the experience. I don't know. It was a different world back then with the theatrics, and you went. Newsboys were always kind of, it wasn't only the music, but we wanted to actually give people the show.
Yeah.
And granted, in the early days, sometimes there was more show than music. And some of the early years and the early albums, it was, pretty cheesy and corny. But hey, in those early days, that's who we were. And I think, like any band, hopefully you grow and you mature. But I think that simplistic bunch of misfit lads from Australia, I think used to come out in our music, and I think people, even if they didn't care for the music, they used to really be impacted by the antics of the show, and a bunch of guys that were on stage that actually just really, really loved what we did, good or bad.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty amazing experience, to see the whole journey from a garage and knowing the neighbors to come into America and then eventually, being a part of, history and filling, some of the biggest arenas in this nation and seeing that whole journey of garage to success was, not a lot of people in that arena have the privilege of always experiencing things to that height. So we were incredibly blessed and fortunate, and it was an amazing journey.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. Well, I can't really imagine just having humble beginnings, playing in Australia, and all of a sudden, you're. I think I remember you guys played at the in front of the Washington Monument, and just in front of thousands of people, and doing all these crazy shows, which is great. But having heard your testimony a dozen times by now, which I never get tired of it. That sort of success and popularity, did take a toll on you and your personal life. And OG fans of the Newsboys probably know that you stepped away from the band, which the announcement at the time was because you wanted to focus on ministry. But it later came out that you you were dealing with some stuff in your life, and so if you could just recount that, if you would, and just talk about how you've gotten from there to where you are now, because it's a pretty crazy story.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want is the viewers or the listeners to get the impression that I'm going to pull out my poor victim card, that
Sure.
life was unfair for me. At the end of the day, you take responsibility for your actions, and we all want success. Who doesn't want to be successful at any level of what you're passionate about, whether it's your work endeavor, whether it's a hobby, whether it's a career? Hey, there's nothing wrong with aspiring to be successful. But the thing with success that we don't always realize, when you start to live the dream of success, it's going to expose the defects in your character. And success has the ability to really shine a light on and emphasize your flaws. And again, everyone has to deal with that. And unfortunately, the choices that I made that ultimately shipwreck, my first marriage, my career with the band exposed a lack of character in my life and a lack of integrity. People might think, well, how did that happen? And it never happened overnight. And, I never, at the heights of success, I never woke up one day, my house in Franklin, Tennessee, and, living the dream and thought, right, what's on the agenda today? I know this, I'm going to destroy my marriage, my life, my family, my career. It never happened like that. I look back, and unfortunately for me, it was a journey of little compromises along the way. And eventually, when you start to compromise the foundations of your life, though you think they're small and it's no big deal at the time, eventually it's going to take its toll on every area of your life. And then the little compromises start to grow into bigger compromises, and then you start walking down a path that's a dead-end street. But it's almost like, you're struggling in areas, but at the same time, there's this incredible, the pressure to keep up the appearance of who you are, and this ministry and the responsibility of your friends, your mates in the band, the responsibility of your family and providing for your family. So unfortunately, you wear the mask and the show must go on. And, I can even look back, back then, it was a real thing where bands, used to travel around with pastors on the road. It was the in thing to have a pastor that traveled with the band. And, hey, that's a great idea on paper. but unless you're really willing to be honest with somebody and transparent, mate, you can have 10 pastors on the road. But if you want to, compromise in areas of your life, you'll do it and get away with it regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. I think that's it's really interesting. One of the main takeaways that I get from your story is that it doesn't really matter who you are. You can be just some regular Christian guy, or you can be a Christian rock star. If you ignore those aspects of your life, family, connection to God, and connection to your church, it can happen to anyone, where you can just start to slowly be backing away from all of that, and so it's but so
taking for granted those foundational building blocks in our life. So often we think, watch out for the big things that are going to take you out. And so often it's not the big things, it's those fundamental things that are so important, whether it's the authenticity of your level of intimacy and your daily intimacy with God, whether that is a legitimate foundation in your life, or it's just a show when it's lights, camera, and action, and you're on stage. The foundation of that in your life, the foundation of your family. I'm out saving the world, and my own family's fallen apart. I'm out saving everyone else, but right under my own nose. I'm losing my own family, and also, I think staying connected and accountable, like I said earlier, and honest with people, and staying connected and planted in a good local church family that can help to keep you grounded and balance out the crazy schizophrenic lifestyle of a rock star celebrity on stage. How do you go on the road on tour and drink of the adrenaline rush it is every night on tour, and coming to cities that have a mindset like you go on stage like you're there to conquer the city and have an amazing night, and it's such an adrenaline high, and imagine that for weeks. And then you come back home to the normality of home life, of unfortunately, I would have used the terminology back then, which is wrong, but I would have said, how do you come home and just be a dad? Just be a father, a husband. Oh, it's Tuesday night. What's that? You got to take the bin out. It's bin night.
Yeah.
So it's like you become like an addict in a sense because of the excitement of the ministry and the exploits of every city's a new challenge and a new opportunity, a new crowd to connect with and inspire and win over. But that becomes your world and your identity. And you become such a junkie for that you have to have that. And it's really difficult to come off the road. Now, granted, there's times where you're so exhausted, you can't wait to have a day, a couple of days off. But after a few days, mate, you're itching to get back out. You're itching to do something that gives you that rush again and that excitement of the ministry, of impacting people and reaching people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like those, those high mountain moments, in life, and then you have to come back down to the valley, and it's like, ugh, it's not as cool as it was up there, yeah. So, yeah, you had a whole, trying to word my what I'm going to say next. You had this whole situation in your life where you where things just really went downhill, but you had to leave the band, and you had to take some time to focus on yourself. Spoiler alert, you're obviously here and doing well. So what were the things that that brought you from such a low point in your life to where you are now? And I'm sure it's a lot of themes that you are probably going to explore in your album. But yeah, so what were the events that's just helped you build you back up to where you are now?
For me personally, I think it was the grace and the mercy of God. And when I went back to Australia, I lost everything. I lost my marriage. I lost, after a period of time, I lost my family. I lost everything, and my sense of validation and worth. Was locked up in my identity, who I used to be, and everything. And now that's taken from me. You just lose your equilibrium and at my lowest point, I think to experience God's grace, not because who I am or how special, John James from the Newsboys, blah, 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 but because of who God is. And the fact that more than the Newsboys, more than anything else, my aspirations or my dreams or my love or my that God was so incredibly faithful and relentless to give up on these kids. Like, if I was God, I would have given up on me years ago. But there's an incredible God in spite of our failings and our weaknesses and our mess ups and the scars and the baggage and the wounds, the betrayal, the bitterness, the unforgiveness, the shipwrecks. He refuses to give up on us, and he's continuing to draw us to a place of repentance and intimacy with him. And that's mind-blowing, because there was a time in my life where I felt so just dirty and just so broken and ugly. How could God ever forgive or love somebody like me? And experience that journey. I wish I could tell the listeners or the viewers that was an overnight quick fix, but it wasn't, mate. It was a really painful, long journey. And even today, man, if I have to daily be reminded of the goodness and the mercy and the grace of God, not because of me and I deserve it and I earned it, but because of who He is.
Mm-hmm.
Because for years, mate, I felt like, how dare I even hold my head up? That the purpose of my life now was to, hang my head low in shame and do repentance for the rest of my life. But walking that journey of God's love and God's forgiveness, even though, I guess as we all do, I have many scars. Some days I have to just really deal with the regret and the past. And no wonder Jesus said, come unto me.
Yeah.
If you're weary and heavy laden. And so learning to let go of the baggage and the offenses and scars and the things that of your past run deep and are entrenched into our soul, and there's things that want to latch on and weigh us down and hold us like we're in a prison cell for the rest of our life, and experience God's freedom. And I don't know, I'm constantly experiencing and still experiencing that incredible forgiveness and mercy and grace and love in my life. Do I always get it right? No. Everything I've done on my life's journey, have I done things that have made Him proud? Absolutely not. Are there things even to this day that I may be ashamed of? Absolutely. But again, I'm learning to just lay everything down at His feet, and there may be some viewers or some people out there in America that think, how dare I even aspire to have a story or a testimony or speak to people after everything I did. There's people out there that may feel that I've forfeited the right to ever have a voice again. To speak to people because of the shipwreck and the sin and the choices that I made in my life. There may be people out there that think, according to the law, John James, you deserve to die. And I got to say, yeah, you're right. All the stone throwers, you're absolutely probably right. According to the law, yeah, I probably do deserve that. But again, I'll say it, and that's the biggest mind trip for me today, that in the midst of my sense of being, I'm so not qualified or validated, that I'm like, God, I'm the last person now that you can use. God's like, yes, good. Now I can use you, because before I used you, but man, there was so much of you and ego. And, I think, being a public figure, I think, man, you deal with attitude and ego till the day you die.
Yeah.
And coming to terms with that God, and that blows my mind, Clifford, because that God is still actually interested in using me as a vessel to bring a good news and the message of hope found in Christ, but not only to, using my life as a testimony, not only the mountaintop experience, but the valley and the shipwreck.
Yeah.
See, because I've experienced, mate, that He's not only God of the mountaintop, He's God of the valley. He's God of the storm, the shipwreck, the disaster, the mess. He's there every step, and in that every step of the way.
Yeah.
And so coming back to America, which I have since 14 now, is pretty amazing for me, because honestly, I'm the last person in the world that I feel qualified now. But God said, exactly, you know what, I'm going to use you in the midst of your brokenness and your mistakes and your failures. I'm going to still use you.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the one thing that there are plenty of things that I love about the gospel, and just the way that God is, in comparison to our nature is that, you know, we can't do anything to earn righteousness or perfection. It's all him, and that's why we can always, you know, we always have to depend on him. And you see in the Bible, there's so many, it's full of characters that are just unqualified, and yet, you know, God's grace shines brightest through those characters, and he's still able to use them. And that's just incredible, and it's incredible to see in your life, for sure. So since then, what have you been up to? Where have you been at? And what have been the events that have led up to you all of a sudden wanting to get into music again and to create this album? Because I remember reading interviews of you and you being like, no, I don't think I'm going to do music anymore. So what's been happening over the 20 plus years since then?
Yeah, you know, it's crazy to think that it's like over 26 years since I did music.
Mm.
And for the last 26 plus years, I passionately said I'll never sing again. And that area of my life was pretty broken. And for 27, you know, man, I've people had asked me, "Oh, will you sing?" Never. And I was adamant and passionate. And not only did I say passionately for 27 years, I'll never sing again, I honestly believed that I could never sing again. Or I wouldn't be good enough or able to. And man, you talk about broken. Mate, that area of my life was so broken. You know, there were times where I would stand for years. I would stand in church and sing, and nothing could come out. It was just silence. And I truly, the fear that gripped my heart of singing, and you know, I was just messed up, mate, in that area, and lost all confidence or ability. And I just said, no. It's funny when God started to restore my life, and then eventually, after many years, when He called me back to America, which is bizarre, you know, as a missionary. I remember I said to the Lord, "Okay, God, if you really want to use me again, it's amazing, it's bizarre, but I'll do anything for you, Lord. But don't ask me to sing, because I'll never do that." And I would have been quite happy. I'm serious, mate. I would have been quite happy to go to my grave as a missionary, I guess, telling my story and testimony and doing what I do. I would have been quite happy to go to my grave and have never sung again. And that's how broken that area was. And, you know, if you said to me 7 months ago, we'd be having a conversation about a new album, I would have said, "Mate, you need to get some help. You're crazy." No way in a million years.
But the fans want it, John.
Nah, well, all the best for the fans. Go to another concert. Not interested. Just it had no appeal. Nothing. It was so, and it actually filled me with anxiety and fear, mate. I speak in schools, public schools across the nation, and drug and alcohol recovery facilities, and we do stuff with the military. And mate, put me in a gymnasium at a high school with 700 rowdy high school kids, and all right, I can deal with that. Praise God. But put a mic in my hand in front of 3 people and say sing, mate, it's never going to happen. I fall apart with anxiety and fear, and so it's pretty amazing, mate. The fact that we're even having this conversation, and I'm 2/3 of the way through doing a brand new album, and no wonder, the album. No wonder the title says it all, mate. God of the second chance,
Yeah. So why? Can you
hang on? I lost my headphones again.
Sure, yeah, go.
I'll be back.
Yeah. We'll be right back after.
I'll be back again.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the question is why? Why the sudden change?
I have no idea, mate. I've no idea. Honestly, I wish I could give you some really, for the viewer, some really profound. Was that an era of my life that I used to lie awake dreaming about being on stage and seeing? No,
Right.
absolutely not. I think 6 months, 7 months ago, my wife, she made a statement that really just, for some reason, this day after 27 years, the statement just cut me deep.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, look, John, at the end of the day, you do what you want. If you never want to sing again, that's fine. But at the end of the day, it boils down to, if God is wanting to sing through you again and you continue to say no, then all it is rebellion.
Mm.
And one day you're going to have to stand before God and give an account of your life. But he's also going to ask you why I wouldn't allow him to sing again through me. And it has nothing to do with writing #1 hit songs and filling arenas and getting, Dove Awards or Grammy nominations, like, has nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with obedience. And whether it's in front of one person or thousands, if God says, hey, I want to sing through you, will you let me? And for 27 years, I said no. And back 6 months ago, it was as if a dam burst in my life. And I just started writing uncontrollably. Wow. I mean, it's not like I've dabbled here and there with music. I've done nothing, mate. I haven't picked up an instrument. I haven't played anything. I've sung nothing. It wasn't, let me break out my book over the years of all the old songs I've been putting together. It was not, but it was like a dam burst. And mate, I was writing. It was like a tsunami. I couldn't stop writing. Wow. And I wrote all the songs that are, going on the album. I wrote all the lyrics. I did everything, but it was surreal, mate. And even doing that, I had no idea where it was going to. I'm writing all these songs. And next thing, I'm in Florida. Next thing, we're in the studio. Next thing, God's, placed me in a position to have access to this recording. So, and mate, it's bizarre. And we're on, like I said, we're about, 80%, 75% of the way through. We're putting on the final touches to have it finished soon. Nice. And it's surreal, Yeah. Being in the studio, mate, the anxiety was through the roof for me. I prolonged the singing for as long as possible. It's like, let's just get all the music done, because I knew that day was going to come. I got to tell you, mate, that first day standing in the studio with a set of headphones on in the vocal booth, with the guy there, my producer there, my microphone in front of me. Mate, you talk about my heart. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. It was surreal. The very thing I said with passion, there's no way in hell that I'll ever sing again. Yeah. And here I was, practically every day after the studio, after my session in there singing, mate, when it was over, I'd walk to my car. I'd sit in the car. As soon as I closed the door and I got in the car, mate, I would break down and weep like a baby. Wow. Because I've realized that this whole project of what God's doing in my life has nothing to do with how amazing John James is. Oh, this talent was there all the time, just waiting to come out. It has nothing to do with me being so amazing. It has to do with obedience. And good or bad, this album ends up being. The real miracle for me isn't if I have number one hit songs or the critics love it or people are raving or, I get another Pigeon Award. I mean,
Pigeon
Dove Award,
yeah.
Or to me, the greatest miracle will be one day when I can stand in some folks, whether it's 5 people, 10 people, or thousands, whatever, that I can say to these folks, hey, I'd love to sing you a song that I wrote a while back that talks about the pain of life's journey, about being healed from the scars of the wounds or the betrayal or the shipwrecks. I'd love to sing a song. And for me, at that moment, when I sing one of these songs, for me, that moment is going to be like, well done, good and faithful servant.
Yeah.
The Grammy goes to John James. The Dove Award that'll be my wow moment, because I know that there's no way in the world that I could have ever dreamed of or done this if it wasn't for this incredible God that chose to breathe on that broken area of my life again, for his glory. I have no idea. Once the album's finished, mate, if you ask me what's next, I have no idea. I don't have a clue. Man, I don't have a marketing campaign and a strategy I have no idea.
We got to bring the spacesuit back and everything, and just.
Man, I'd like to, but I can't. I can't fit into those gig clothes anymore. I'm about 80 pounds heavier now, mate.
Just get them resized.
Yeah, what I thought if somebody said, "Are you gonna, wear, your silver suit again?" I said, "Nah, I can't fit in it. Maybe I can get one made that are like tracky pants.
Yeah,
silver tracky pants. Stretchy pants.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's just, so I have no idea what's next. Hey, there may be nothing. The greatest miracle of this album may have been the miracle that God was wanting to do in my life, in my heart. So it's pretty amazing, and the fact we're even having this interview is surreal for me.
Yeah.
Because, not that long ago, Clifford, 7 months ago, mate, this wasn't even on my radar. Yeah. Impossible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's got to be exciting though, right?
Yeah, the songs are turning out pretty cool, I think. But again, hey, I'm allowed to be a little bit biased, But if somebody said to me the other day, what are the songs like? If you had to, and oh man, I don't know, probably my wife is the best person to ask. It's kind of like, and I say this jokingly, so if any of the viewers don't get offended, it's kind of like old Newsboys when the Newsboys used to be cool.
No, yeah, I can.
Yeah. It's kind of like the songs, and it might be sacrilege that I'm saying it, but it reminds me of songs that we wrote when Steve Taylor was involved. The songs are like, if these songs had a sequel album, I think it's kind of like the songs of Shine, Breakfast, Take Me to Your Leader.
Yeah.
That sort of vein and tongue in cheek, a lot of cheese, but in the midst of the cheese, there's some really great, I think, hooks and melodies and some really awesome lyrics. And I think stylistically, that's what it is. There's some songs that really nakedly talk about the journey and the pain. But there's other songs that are like Breakfast that are just tongue in cheek, Yeah, it's kind and it's pretty bizarre because you probably know more than I do, Clifford, today about the Christian music industry. But for me, a
little more than I'd like to.
You kind of listen on the radio, Christian radio today, and it seems like, unless this is what you do, there's one big lane, and it's kind of like reflective congregational worship music. But if you're not in that lane, it's kind of like, man, all the best with that. It's kind of like everyone's jumped on the worship bandwagon. Now, that's great.
Sure.
But I'm thinking, is anyone writing music that's in a different lane and maybe reaching people that don't listen to local Christian radio station?
Yeah.
Or don't have to tune in at at 2 a.m. till 4 a.m. at nights once a week to get some alternative music, you know? And that's all I'm saying. It seems like such a different era today when I was with the Newsboys, because there were people in the lane that did worship and reflective congregation, but there were also people who were definitely in a different alternative lane.
Yeah, it was a good mixture of everything.
Music, that was reaching a generation of young people that didn't go to church or didn't listen to Christian radio or Southern gospel or really, you know, adult contemporary traditional worship music. And I don't know, I could be wrong, that it seems there's not many of those lanes anymore. And if you're a band, you either morph and become a worship band. And if you want to get your songs played, which I don't even know how many people still listen to Christian radio. Most people, younger generation, listens to their music by podcast downloads or
Spotify
subscription. You know,
Yeah.
But if you want to get your music played in Christian scene, it's like you got to give the radio stations this style of music, otherwise they're not going to play it. So I'm really interested to see what happens with my music, because it's really not in that lane at all, mate.
That's great. I mean, that was something that I was, you know, curious about, like, you know, what it was going to sound like if you were going to go something for a bit more contemporary, or if you were going to go back to your roots. And it's gotten me really excited. I have to say, the last interview that I did, or the last one that was released recently, I have to say, I got to mention, because it's related. I talked to an artist that I really love, John Van Dusen. He's more of in the alternative indie rock kind of lane, and he brought you guys up. He's like, man, because he wrote a song called "Boring," which is basically about, like, when did Christian music get so boring, and yeah, he started talking about you guys, the Newsboys. He's like, the Newsboys were weird and they were fun. And that's something that's just kind of missed today. And so that's, you know, so basically that's kind of like what he channeled. And honestly, I doubt that you're going to offend anyone here, at least anyone who's watched my channel for a long time, because that is something that I preach all the time here. And it's kind of like I don't know, I guess like a mission for me with this YouTube channel is to try to encourage you know, the more creative and unique stuff, and, you know, bring the spotlight to to, you know, that good kind of music, you know, and which, yeah, I understand, like, there is, I do love some good worship music, but it's usually worship music that's not really played on the radio anyways. But yeah, that's just something that we're missing.
Yeah, who decides that? Is it, you know, what hits radio play or podcast, worship, you know, that's worship's music? Well, who is the barometer or the gauge of what determines what's worship? Because what's worship to one may be absolutely the opposite to somebody else. So I don't know. It's kind of like, I think we really put God in a box. Yeah. Especially if we say, well, this is anointed worship music. Well, where's the barometer? You know, show me the packet where break and read instructions. Yeah. You know, do I have to have a certain chord progression, or is it more about, well, this will get you on the Dove Awards, or this will get you on Christian radio, or this will give you the most downloads, you know, because so every band now, you know, somebody brings out a hit worship song and now you have 400 bands copying the same chord progression, the same style, because everyone wants that same hit. Yeah. And and no one's scared to do anything outside the box, because you won't get aired, or you won't get downloaded, or you won't get considered. So everybody just morphs into that same recipe. Yeah. And it's quite, I look at like, you know, the Newsboys today. And I think, you know, I've known those guys for years, you know, all the guys in the band, you know, I've obviously Mike Tate was with DC Talk, but the guys in the band, you know, Jeff and Duncan and Jody and that, man, I've known those guys for years. And I think the Newsboys, to have longer jeopardy, they've had to morph.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But the Newsboys today is a totally stylistic, the Newsboys today would not do a Shine, a Take Me Leader, or a Breakfast.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And not that those songs are so, hey, every band grows.
Right.
Every band evolves in who you are. But I mean, I don't think they would ever do a song like that again. And not that there's anything wrong with not doing those songs, but I'm saying there's a whole generation of young people out there that if we still want to reach them, then we have to be mindful that they're not listening to the latest top 40 Christian worship hits.
Yeah.
That's my small opinion, mate.
That's your little soapbox there. No,
that's my little soapbox.
I'm right up there with you. Just a couple more questions about the album. I don't want to keep you too long if you got a little bit more time. But speaking of your your old bandmates and such, I guess that's a question that everyone's going to have on your minds. Are there going to be any collaborations on this album that would get us fans excited about? Like, are you working with any old bandmates or old producers or anything, or is it a totally new, different kind of crew for you?
It's all different. In regards to, there was one person I did reach out to, but I actually, not for writing the album, but maybe collaborating on some songs in the early days of the album, was Steve Taylor.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and but and Steve's the nicest guy. I was always so honored and privileged to work with Steve, a great guy, still is an amazing guy.
Yeah.
But his commitments with work, and he just had no bandwidth in that. But he was so excited. Musician wise, I used the guy, probably one of the best traditional B3 players in Nashville. He played B3 on several of the Newsboys albums.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know, like, crikey, is the guy still alive? Is he around? But I did some research, and because there were these two songs, mate, that when I was writing them, I said, man, these songs need B3 on them. And I actually had another guy that played the B3. He was a great piano player, and I used him on some other track. But when it came to that B3 sound and having an original B3 Leslie and that, and it just didn't work. So I tracked this guy down, got a hold of him, and I said, mate, you legend, would you? And he was so awesome. He did 2 tracks for me. B3
awesome.
A keyboard on 2 of my track, and his parts were just awesome. I can't wait. So, folks, he did them for 2 songs. For a song called "Hey God," and the other one a song called "Scars."
Scars, okay.
Scars and "Hey God."
Awesome. Well,
so he's a great guy. His name, is it okay to use the name, or do you got to blank it out? I've got a legend by the name of Phil Madeira.
Phil Madeira. That name sounds familiar. I've probably heard it around. I probably even saw it on the credits of the albums and such.
Of those albums, But he is an amazing musician and one of the best B3 players around.
Awesome.
And God willing, if one day I do another album, mate, he'll be my go-to guy. Actually, one day, if ever I did a concert, which I can't even believe it, mate, in Nashville, mate, he's my go-to keyboard player. I'd love to do a gig with Phil on keyboards. He's a classic.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm as a keyboardist myself, I do appreciate some good keys, some good B3. So that's awesome. So awesome. So what's sorry, go ahead.
The guy that's my producer. Is probably my best mate for over 30 years. One of the most gifted, talented, creative people I've ever met. Another Aussie. His background, he pioneered for the first 7 or 8 years the Hillsong Church with Darlene Check.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then he left there and he went with his cousin. And some of the listeners or viewers might know of this. They pioneered in Australia Planet Shakers.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's my friend David Evans. Him and his cousin pioneered that. So,
Right.
he's an incredible get. Long story short, the church where I'm based in Florida, he's the same time I rocked up there, he rocked up that first weekend as the new worship director.
Oh, great.
And
Awesome.
so he's producing it.
Okay.
David Evans. Mm-hmm.
David Evans. Okay. In my in my research for the video I've been doing about you, I remember coming across his name. So awesome.
David Evans, and he's the extraordinaire Mr. Evans, and my best mate. So we've had a lot of fun in the studio, mate. I tell you what, I'm being in the studio. I think I forgot how much hard work it is to make an album.
Sure.
It's like, there's a lot of hard work, mate. It's not that easy.
Yeah, it just doesn't come by magic or anything.
Yeah, it kind of makes me appreciate with a renewed sense of appreciation. All the hard work Peter Furler put in.
Sure.
When he was doing a lot of the writing and carrying the load of that himself, because none of us really stepped up, or we were lazy, one of the two.
Yeah,
but because a lot of the hard work and the hours and hours, sleepless hours of writing music, someone had to do it, and he paid the price and stepped up and did it.
Yeah, and that's what made the Newsboys, as you said, when they were cool, how so cool back then. Him and working together with Steve Taylor and the rest of you guys. So, but yeah, that's hearing you talk about.
It's going to be interesting, mate. I'm actually going to be interested. I really am. Not because my ego is so fragile. I'm just really curious to see what people think of it. And I'd actually be really curious to think of what my old bandmates think of it, because I'm sure. Words starting to creep out and get out, and that it's kind of like woo. Wait a second, what? John Jones hasn't done any music in 27 years, and then when he was with the band, the only songs that he was involved in writing are the early ones, and they were pretty crappy. It's like when people are like, and people probably think, man, I think it's got people who give a rip or some people who don't. Just intrigued of what it's going to be, and I think it's either going to be really bad or pretty cool. But people are kind of like, man, I think a lot of folks are just really intrigued by the whole story and the whole journey, because there's a lot more going on than just the music.
Yeah,
it's the story behind the journey and everything. Back in the Newsboys days when I was with them, everything was about the music and the experience of the show. But in our culture today, people buy more. The music is just one piece of the whole picture. People are more interested today in being a part of the journey.
Sure.
And where's the journey and the music leading to? What's it connected to? It's not like the destination is the music. We've reached and the story's over. It's just the music is one stepping block of a story and a journey being told. And I think that's what fascinates people today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, having become so familiar with your story, just when I heard when the announcement first when I first came across it, it just really warmed my heart, just to know how far you'd come since when you left the band and to where you are now. That's just really cool and really inspiring. So even if it is bad, I'm just really happy for you.
How did you find it? Where did you actually see it? Where did you find it?
Social media. It was probably, I don't know if you've ever heard of JesusFreakHideout.com. They sometimes, give updates on, Christian music news and such. And So yeah,
Okay. And you
when it
saw it
came
on
out,
there.
it was all over. A few people were
Wow.
sharing it, so
Okay.
so people have not
Yeah.
forgotten you, that's for sure. And I mean,
That's funny, mate.
I am plugged into some communities that that really appreciate
Mm-hmm.
the classic Newsboys era, and so
Mm-hmm.
so yeah,
Are there
hearing that
bands
news,
around?
yeah,
Are there bands around like that today?
I
That are doing like we're talking about that older, not stylistically, but the attitude of the music, that
I
it's
think
not in
so.
this. Who are bands that are
Um,
around today that are doing that?
oh boy, I mean, a lot
Are
of
they-
them, they're more, they don't get any really mainstream,
yeah,
spotlight or anything, so you kind of have to go digging for them.
yeah.
A lot of them are kind of came up in the Tooth and Nail record label kind of scene, so it was more like kind of like punkish, hardcore. I mentioned the artist John Van Dusen. I think he does a
Yep.
lot of that today. Um, I there's Tyson
Interesting.
Matzenbacher kind of comes to mind. There's so many that Showbread, but they don't really play
A lot of
anymore.
bands that a lot of bands that would have been what you're talking about would have, if it was, I don't even know if it's still around today, that would have been on like a Tooth and Nail label.
Yeah, for sure. And
Okay.
that is something like while I love that kind of music, there is something about like the Newsboys old stuff that I feel like is kind of missing, something that's like both um excuse me, I guess what's the word that I want? It's accessible to a general audience, but still, kind of stretches you in a way, kind of challenges you, and has fun while doing it. Bands like
Mm.
Newsboys, DC Talk, Audio Adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that kind of stuff is sort of missing, and so I'm always happy to find
Interesting.
anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe your album will inspire more of that.
Like I said, mate, I honestly, when I mean this sincerely, I don't lie in bed at night dreaming about having a number one hit song and the
Right.
accolade. Yeah, to me, honestly, the miracle has just been that I've been able to do this, and I'm so
Absolutely.
thankful to God. And just like the Newsboys in the early days, mate, for some reason, God chose to bless and breathe on a bunch of misfits and cheesy songwriters. But whatever reason, mate, God chose to give the band favor and breathe on the band. End of
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
And you can take credit maybe in some areas because of this we did, or managerial we did, or songwriting, or collaborating with me. Yes, but at the end of the day, you gotta step back and say, for whatever reason, God chose to breathe on the band and favor.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, God's chose to breathe on my life again with the music. And like I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but mate, I'm whatever God wants to do, I'm just saying, yes, Lord, have your way.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah. That's great. And it seems to be something that God just continues to do, both, in everyone's life, in the Newsboys career, and still in your own personal life. That's just amazing.
One more thing, can I say something?
Sure,
I think
yeah.
what was cool for me, not only doing my album, but obviously one of the greatest supporters and cheerleaders in my life is my wife Tanya. And she's a wonderful recording artist also. And at the same time writing my album, Tanya and I collaborated, and we wrote her new album.
Awesome.
And we're actually in the studio kind of same time doing mine. We're trying to get her done, her brand new album also. And she's the talented one, mate. I'm her roadie. I carry her bags everywhere. But she has a song online, a beautiful song we recorded in Nashville. Tanya she is in that lane of doing really, really heartfelt worship music.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing like some of the the backing and singing on my album, which
Yeah.
is really great. The girl's voice on there that the listeners will hear will be my wife.
Awesome.
But you can look online, Tanya James, and she has a song that she did upload a little while ago. We did a national called I Stand in Awe, but that's Tanya James. But she's been my greatest champion and cheerleader and has believed in me since day one, mate. And there's no way that I could have done this new album if it wasn't for that awesome woman's prayer and support and allowing God to use her to be a part of this miracle in my life.
That's great. Always great to have that 24/7 cheerleader, on your side.
Come on. Maybe once the album's out, mate, and you've listened to it, maybe we can do another interview once it's out. Or maybe after you listen to it, you might not want to do another interview. Either way, we'll see, eh?
We'll see. I mean, either way, I'm more than welcome. I'm definitely more than open, to have another conversation with you, or with any newsboy. Honestly, like I said, like 6-year-old me would be, through the roof. So this has been really special, and so I'm really excited to check out the album. So you're like mostly almost done with it? Do you have a release date or anything? And can people still contribute to it?
No. Yeah, they can. Like I said, we're about 80%. We still got a bit of a ways to go, but folks absolutely can. That would be a huge blessing to get us over the finish line. But we're hoping soon, mate. It's one of those things. We're hoping to cross the finish line, and once it is, then we'll make some pretty exciting news about what we're going to be doing with it.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure I'll be, whenever I get any updates, I'll be sharing them on the show. So great. And by the way, just talking about, we were talking earlier about the, what music out there, is good and is challenging and fun. I'm just saying, I know that there's a lot out there. I've just been drawing a blank during this conversation because I talk about it all the time, and we try to do reviews for new music and such that we like, but so yeah, you just got to go out there and find it. But yeah, awesome. So is there anything else that you wanted to plug before I let you go?
Nah, I think that's the other cool thing, other than the movie. When I did the 700 Club special that I was telling you about last year, and they did an awesome job. The viewers can still check that out. John Jane's Testimony, 700 Club, and
sure.
But when they aired that, it got before some people that must have just watched it online, and they were really touched by my story. So we're in the works at the moment, and negotiations and with different ones in regards to turning the story into a movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the thing is, to do it well, mate, it's going to be a gritty movie.
Sure. Yeah.
Not to shock people, but to be real about the journey and the experience and everything. It's not going to be like I believe from the script and what we're looking at, it's not going to be, God willing, if we do it, like a typical cheesy bubblegum feel-good Christian movie.
Right, yeah. I mean...
but it will actually address the incredible journey of success and the heights, but the pain of loss and grief and everything. And to do the story well and to tell the story honestly, you got to put some grit behind it.
Sure, yeah.
And that might not be for everybody. There may be, the rating that it gets. There may be some people in the church, we can't send little Joey to see that. It's got an R rating, But it's something we're looking at and in negotiating and talking with people now. But
awesome.
Hey, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? And if it does come to pass, then we'll realize, cool, you remember back so long ago. I was on the Clifford show, and we were talking about this.
Yeah,
Eh?
you heard it here first.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I
gonna
don't know if it's first, but you heard it on Clifford's show. I don't
right,
know if it's
yeah.
first, but yeah. So we'll see. So that's something that's pretty amazing, and I have no idea. Again, I pray God, if this is something that you want to do, great.
Mhm.
If you don't, great.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do, Lord. I'm kind of at that stage in my life where just hey God, whatever. I don't know how many years I have left, but I want them to count. I can't change the past,
Mhm.
um, but every day when I wake up now, I make a choice that let my life now um, bring honor and glory to God, and let me live with integrity and as an authentic representation
Mhm.
of Christ in the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
Can't change the past, mate, but we can take responsibility moving forward from today, how we're going to live.
Yeah, for sure. Well, with that news, then I'll just let me just say, I will throw my name in the ring. I'll shave my beard and I'll grow my hair out and I'll audition for Phil Joel's part in the movie.
Somebody jokingly said the other day, so if they did make this movie, who's going to play John James? And, my sarcastic, cynical self, I said, well, that's pretty obvious. They said, well, who? I said, it'll either be Thor,
Chris Hemsworth,
the actor,
yeah, mhm.
him or Danny DeVito, one of the two. Somewhere in that spectrum, mate.
Sure, yeah. Well, I think Chris Hemsworth is an actual Australian, so that might be better. Yeah, I think that would be pretty
So you never
accurate.
know, mate.
All right, then. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much to John James for spending some time and talking with me and being willing to do it. He's a great guy, fun guy. Um, I mean, most Australians that I know are super nice. So he is no exception, and it was just really cool to be talking to basically a legend in Christian music, in my opinion. And I don't know. I almost want to say he's probably the biggest guest that we've had on the show.
So
Um,
far,
so far, I mean, we've had some really
this
good,
is a
like
pretty good one.
more modern popular ones. John James is kind of more popular for like Christians who have been into the Christian music scene for a long time. So I imagine there are probably some younger people who might not know who he is,
Mm.
but he's an OG, that's for sure. Um, so yeah, were there any particular things that that stuck out to you guys in the conversation?
Nick, you
Well,
can
I
start.
did make.
Sorry, Josh, you go first.
No, I said Nick can start. He was about to start. Yeah. Oh, you listening?
Well, Nick's gone, so
Okay. Well, I like the whole one. I like the going back to your intro, talking about um the rumors why he left, and then the actual reason why he left. Um, it was more just and then listening to the interview and seeing him on the other side of all this problem. Um,
hmm
I guess just the realization we don't really know what can be going on with the musicians, and to also like
hmm
constantly keep them in prayer and make sure they are okay instead of just like, hey, when you gonna release the next music? When's the next single? Or come to my city for tour? Like, maybe they can't because they are dealing with these personal issues that they need to take care of. But if they're so pressed by fans and the industry to crank out this music and view his work, he could have lost his
Mm-hmm.
wife, his life, and stuff like that. So I was glad that he had the people around him to like help him step away. So now he
Mm-hmm.
can come back and like 25 years later, he's actually in ministry. He has his wife still, and we hear
Well,
him in.
actually, I'll give you a little bit of correction because
Okay,
we didn't really get into it. The wife at the time, they did actually end up
okay,
splitting up, and he got remarried.
okay.
So,
Well, still, but
um,
that the fact that he was able to get remarried, I guess.
yeah,
But now that he's in a healthy a place, first with the Lord, and then he's able to get get into music. I just see
yeah,
we hear a healed man, and you hear the wisdom, and then all the memories that he had. It's like it was interesting to listen to that. But
yeah, for sure. I think it's a. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do a documentary about him, which it's still going to happen at some point. It's going to happen, but I think it's such a great. It's both. It's a tale of hope, but it's a cautionary tale, and it shows you that just because that you're this big time Christian musician doesn't mean that you don't face the same temptations. In
yeah,
fact, I would say that you probably face even more temptations, with all the fame. Just because it's in the Christian music industry
hmm,
doesn't mean that there aren't those pressures that are
yeah,
the same in the secular world. And
hmm,
Yeah,
so
because sorry, because I can't remember if I was listening from a small presentation from a like a quote from a saint, or it could have been from a small weekly book club in my church. Because like
mhm,
we're currently reading a book called Sayings from the Church Fathers, like the the church fathers, like they are the generation right after the apostles,
mhm,
and they said it could have been them that said something similar that like, or it was my priest from a homily, latest homily, that like the higher a position someone's in, like they're like this. I think it was more context of church church hierarchy,
mhm.
like the higher the position, the more humility is required of you.
Sure. Yeah.
So like there's a, because the temptations of vainglory is still there if you don't give honor and praise to where is due. So that's why I've also been a little bit cautious for the past few years of getting myself back out there as well, because like if I'm gonna be doing it, I gotta make sure I'm doing it with honesty, meaning
Mhm.
that I'm not doing it for myself for attention, but more for that like this is it's a passion, but also a type of work that
Yeah.
I'm putting into, because the impact on others is a lot greater than I realize.
Mhm.
If the goal is to help people grow closer to God, might not even be right away, but at least some seeds hopefully will be planted and could be planted.
Mhm.
Because like yeah, like you said, there is the temptation of losing yourself when all eyes are all eyes are on you, because we're all, because like when we're trying to fill the God sized hole in our hearts, physically and spiritually, we try to find that in other people, but even our fellow people, we're can't even fill that, because we're all sojourners. We're all on a pilgrimage. We're all going
Mhm.
somewhere.
Yeah, it's true. And the old saying, the wise old saying from Spider-Man, With great power comes great responsibility. Wait, what was that? You cut out there, Nick.
Oh no, I was just mouthing.
Oh, okay.
I was mimicking Clifford.
Yeah. You knew where I was going.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's also just like the fact that like how important, because like John gets into it in his testimony, like at least all the testimonies that I've watched, how it's so important to make sure that you're staying connected with Christ through, reading your Bible and praying through that personal relationship with him, but also staying plugged in with your church. And with the popularity and fame of the Newsboys, he just lost both of those, and he also lost his relationship with his family. And so he was basically like an astronaut cut off from his ship, wandering in space. And so and it's especially, I think it's really relevant now. There's been, I don't really want to drop any names because it's not really that important, but there was some recent news about a very prominent pastor recently who had a moral failing. I mean, that's been a story that we've been hearing all too often as of late. But it just goes to show you that no matter if you're a big singer in music or even if you're a pastor, if you lose those connections, you risk that failure, you know. And so yeah,
Yeah.
it's just super inspiring that he, I guess, um, lives to tell the tale. That right, like Josh said, he's in a really good place right now, but he is able to like tell people like, hey, this is where I failed and where I don't want you to fail.
Yeah.
So I just think that's really cool, and I hope that it seems that he's going to explore a lot of those themes in his new album.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
but
cool.
I don't want to because like I'm not gonna generalize it, but I'm gonna have to for the sake of it that like Protestants in our day and age they're a little bit more susceptible to putting especially well-known pastors and stuff in that higher pedestal, almost to like in that same level of Christ, because like they're not Christ, they're
Right.
all fallible. I'm fallible. I'm the worst of sinners. But those are like there's that because like it also comes with that temptation when there's no humility. It's all still self-serving, even when it sounds good with good intentions. Because like I've been in my audio study Bible study Bible in a year. This week it touched on we're in Second Corinthians with Saint Paul's letter that like they're just like also pointing out false teachers as well, because they may speak because like there are those out there, there will always be those out there that speak with eloquence and with zeal and with charisma, but it also calls for caution, because when the Corinthians read Saint Paul's letters, they were really fire. They were with fire. They were with zeal. And then, like when they heard him speak, it was like, "What? Where is it? Where is it? Listen." Because like it's one thing I'd read, and I speak from my experience, even with most recent experience. I've heard multiple homilies, even coming from my priest as well. Heard multiple sermons where they were very mellow, they were firm, they were stern, because they were speaking, because like their only duty was to share the truth that comes from the gospel, and what we need to do, and even for themselves as well. How do we grow closer to Christ? As opposed to those who are so on fire for God, with quotations. Sorry, I have to generalize for a little bit. With such conviction, but it also leads people astray, even without them realizing it. I've fallen into that myself, so I do still need to be cautious about it. So you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
what is our
don't we all?
yeah? If there, because like it all goes down to context and what the intentions are. Because you get
Mm.
because you can because we're not there for unity, not there for the love of Christ. Well, don't worry, you can still change gears. I'm still trying to change gears too. I got to charge up my
Mm.
phone, so that's all I got so far.
Okay. Yeah. I appreciate all that John, all the perspective that John has, and um super inspiring, and also just really excited about the album, especially since he said that what he's going to try to go for is more of like the old school Newsboys sound. Because he referenced "Going Public" and "Take Me to Your Leader," which I was a little worried, like when he announced the album. I was like, is it gonna like sound more contemporary, but it does seem like that he's gonna try to go for that more old school sound, which I'm really excited for. So um I can't remember if he gave a release date or not, but whenever it comes out, we'll definitely be talking about it. So yeah, any additional comments before we get going to the end of the episode?
Nope, I'm good here.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again, John. It was an honor, and
Yeah.
we'll see if we can get any other newsboys on the show. It'd be awesome. But all right, so it's the moment everyone's all been waiting for. The reason why everyone clicked on this video is for my humble opinion and our humble opinion. So
So what are we
yay!
talking about today?
What we're talking about today, and I should have mentioned at the beginning of the episode, but we're going to be talking about the new EP from Gable Price and Friends, Jungle in the City. And then we're going to be talking about a couple new singles from Wilder Woods, which is the solo project of Bear Reinhardt from Need to Breathe. I don't know if you guys knew that, but I figured that you guys.
Oh,
I should have mentioned in the text I sent you, but yeah, it's Bear Reinhardt from Need to Breathe. So that's why he sounded familiar if he did. um, and then we'll be talking about the new album, the sequel album from Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors, Strangers No More, Volume 2. So yeah, I guess let's get into it. Let's start with Gable Price and Friends. Jungle in the City. We did talk about the first single, Jungle in the City, before when it came out. So I guess my opinions on the EP is that well, first of all, with Gable Price and Friends, I when I was first introduced to them, I was really excited about them. I can't remember what album it was, but it was the album that the song Heretic is on. And I remember really liking that sound in that album. And then the next album that they came out, their more recent album, I was a little disappointed in it. I found it a little forgetful and not very interesting. And so I was hoping for something a little different with this EP, which I don't know if it's going to turn into a full length album, but in my opinion, I think that the first part of this EP is pretty good, in my opinion. In my humble opinion. Um, I basically I like the first three tracks. Newspaper Boat is a lot of fun, basically talking about living our life to the fullest, and making sure that we're staying connected with everyone. And then Mountains and Mundane is basically about Jesus coming into his life in the midst of all the craziness in life. And then Jungle in the City, speaking of the craziness in life, is basically what Jungle in the City is about. and they're all really good, and they're a lot of fun. Very this driving indie pop rock sound, and I think it's quite fun. However, the last two tracks are not so great in my opinion. Kind of not very. I mean, very samey. Nothing very unique about them, except I think that "Heaven Closes Doors" is kind of full of these kind of bad cliches and the lyricism, like like it's like cliches that we've heard in the church for so long, like, oh, heaven closes doors to open a window, and it the song kind of treats it like it's like a new thing, which I guess if you're a younger person, maybe you've never heard that before, and so you're like, "Oh man, that's so true." But um, so yeah, I found that song just a little cringy. I think there are some other cliches in there that it was like got a heart a hole in my heart in the shape of you, so it's like, God shaped
Oh, I
hole.
heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, okay.
I think even you said it before, but it's okay. It's something that we say a lot, but it's just kind of a cliche at this point. And then just the last single, "Deeply Human." I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. Didn't really have any strong feelings about it.
That sucked.
You didn't like it?
Right as you said, right as you got, right as you got to the last two tracks, I was trying to figure out which ones did I actually listen to. So I do remember listening to that EP, especially. So I was like, bruh, come on, guys.
Would you say, is that how you feel about the whole EP, or you kind of long?
Yeah,
Okay. Oh well. See, I thought it
it was
was.
something. It sounded like something that belongs in the mid 2000s, which was a very golden age for Christian music, radio Christian music. I
Oh
will die on
sure.
that hill. That's when it peaked, and then right as they started using reverb.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe that's why I like it, because it does kind of have that like sound from like 10 years ago, that I really like. And so maybe there's some nostalgia aspect to it,
Yeah,
but yeah, for me it's like the first three tracks are good. The last two not so much. But Josh, what were your feelings on this EP?
So the ones you said you didn't like the cliche, I liked just because how cheesy it was, but I
Oh,
liked
okay.
how they did it. Like, so of course, first time I heard it, I was like, okay, yeah, this, but they did it in a way that was kind of like it's kind of cool. But so like,
Hmm.
I wouldn't play it. I would just play it if I would just need something funny to listen to, but in a feel good mood, I was like,
Sure.
I could listen to it. Overall, I definitely agree with you that I see it being turning into a full album, or maybe even a part two, or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. I like the second track the most. I think that it wasn't the one he's saying talking about God coming to his heart.
Mountains and Mundane.
Yeah, I like that one the
Yeah.
most. I can relate to that one. Overall, I like their sound, so I definitely would give it another listen to full through. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it was pretty good. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see you. I can see people liking "Heaven Closes Doors" for those reasons. It's like sometimes cheesy and cliche is fun. I just kind of felt like that they were trying to, um, kind of that they were
Like,
being kind of serious about it.
yeah, I
But
get it. I think I would treat it as the song. Like, if I agree with you that they were treating it serious, but I think I could listen to it.
mm-hmm.
Like, if they were, I would have listened to it way more if they did it like Toy Mac and Mandisa song, "Good Morning," and Toy Mac's whole verse. How people are like, oh my gosh, was Toy Mac really being serious at this point? I'm like,
Yeah.
he was just making a good song, Christian song for
Yeah.
kids and family to listen to. So, I mean. I am not gonna fault them if they were trying to take this seriously. I wouldn't if I'm like trying to evangelize to someone. I wouldn't just throw this on there, but I definitely was. I'll listen to it again and stuff. Like I,
Sure, yeah.
I
I mean,
liked it.
it's fun. It's got that fun indie pop rock
Yeah.
sound, and I will say that I do like Gable Price's vocals, especially in Newspaper Boat. I like all
Hmm.
the little stuff that he does with his vocals. But yeah, I think overall my consensus is that it's fine. We'll see if it turns into a full album and how the rest of the album feels like,
Hmm.
but I hope that those first three tracks aren't all that it has to offer. I would love to hear more of that, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts, Nick, on that one? All right. Let's move on then to Wilder Woods. Uh, Bear Reinhardt's got a couple new singles leading up to an album coming out soon, and I really liked. He came out with his first solo album last year, and I thought it was quite good. I there's a lot of Need to Breathe that I really love, and sometimes Need to Breathe can be a little bit more hit and miss. It kind of depends. There's some albums from them that I love, and albums from them that not so much. And I thought that Wilder Wood's first album was pretty good. Um, had some tracks that I really liked, some that I didn't really care about a whole lot, but it was mostly good. And so with these two new tracks, I think are pretty fun. Personally, um, I think it's. I mean, if these are the best that the album has to offer, I hope there's more for the album. But I think that these two singles are pretty decent. Hide Anymore is just this fun track about like um, well, I'd say it's fun, but there's also a bit of desperateness to it, where Bear is talking about how much God has done in his life and how much he loves him. But with the title of the track, it seems that he's kind of in a moment of desperation where he's like, "Hey, I really need you to show up right now." At least that's kind of how I'm interpreting
It
it.
did feel it
But
did
me,
feel very psalmic, like a psalm that David would sing.
yeah,
It did.
yeah, that's a good comparison where it's like, hey, you've done all these great things for me, and I kind of need you to show up right now. So,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, that's good. Um, but yeah, musically, it's pretty fun. I think it's supposed to be the first. They have like the whole album countdown on
Hmm.
Spotify. Oh, okay. I guess it's the third track on the album, um, and Devil in My Eyes is the seventh track on the album. And Devil in My Eyes, I thought was just fun. It's basically just kind of like a hype song, not really much to say about it except it's just kind of fun musically. It's got that folk rock sound to it. Just yeah, kind of a song that you would listen to on a jog or something.
Yeah.
you know.
Hmm.
So not a whole lot to say about it except it's just like yeah, I'm going, I've got the devil in my eye. Oh yeah, that was the line that I liked, like I've got the angels on my shoulders and the devil in my eyes. I thought that was pretty fun. So yeah, I don't know, what did you guys think about these two tracks? I probably should just call out one of you rather than waiting for
No,
both
I'll
of
do
you
it.
to
I was about to say Josh first this time.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, Josh.
Like you
I'm
said,
a
it
bad
did.
host.
No, you fine. Like we were saying, it did. The first song did feel very psalmic, like a minor psalm that David would write. Um, we all been there. Like, okay, God, I'm not being ungrateful. I am grateful for all the things He done and stuff like that. But like, we all been in that situation where it feels different from all the other ones where you're like, okay, you were there for me there, but I really need you here. But you don't want to feel like you just asking for God for favors and not give the thanks for what He has done. One thing
Yeah.
I like is comparing how he went from how he's also a Need to Breathe and also having Psalm his solo projects. How John Foreman has Switchfoot and also his
Mm-hmm.
solo projects. I feel the comparison from not having the sound of the main band carry over to your solo project, he did that a little bit better than John Foreman. Like you were still able to
Mm.
know he's from Need to Breathe, like you are from John Foreman, but I feel like he
Yeah.
distinguishes his own style that enough to like, okay, this is actually his, and then where Need to Breathe is like the sound is more collective of all the band members than
Yeah.
just this one person. Where John Foreman, it feels more like when it's Switchfoot, it's this is actually him writing the songs and the style of the band, which it carried over to when he went solo. So it just like
Mm.
I think that also kind of happened with I think when David Crowder left David Crowder band, even though it's a little
Yeah.
bit different, his style
A little.
he adds a little bit more electronic with the country as a solo
Mm.
artist than when he was with the band. It was more electronic and worship music. So you can
Mm-hmm.
see that they have their own unique style outside of the band.
Yeah.
So I did like how he handled it better. So yeah,
Yeah, it seems that Wilder Woods kind of leans more into that soul kind of
yeah,
sound
yeah,
with a little bit of like pop influence, whereas like Need to Breathe, even though like sometimes they in the past they've leaned in that direction before, but it feels more like a like a band, a
yeah,
full collaborative
uh
effort.
yeah.
So yeah, okay. Comments, Nick?
Yeah, I honestly didn't let myself get into it. It was
Yeah.
like it was for me. For me, it was like a little bit of change of pace of what I've been listening to like lately for for music inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially, I've been listening to a lot of the band Camino.
Oh
Again,
yeah.
again, again, like I used to because like there's like they're one of several bands.
The band Camino.
Yeah, they're like one of several groups and singers. I'm trying to get a sense of direction of where I want to traject
Mm-hmm.
with my personal stuff at the moment. So I was like switching
Cool.
gears from catchy with some somber and seriousness and reflection, as opposed to the get goey jibby 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 da 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 got joy down in my heart from whatever this guy was doing. Yeah,
You think it's
like
it's all
and then like
joy
I was also
down in your heart?
I'm,
Sorry, go ahead.
well on a person. I mean on a personal level, yeah, I have been,
Yeah.
but it's like I got I've had a little bit of different expectations
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to my music listening for a bit, and I wasn't. I don't know, like. I'm not trying to be a downer, guys, because like I've been going through stuff that like
Yeah.
I couldn't connect. I couldn't connect with the themes from this guy,
Gotcha.
especially because the viewpoint. Because like the viewpoint of his relationship with God, I don't know. I'm probably missing context, but I was like, oh, it's like very okay. It's like very different than mine.
Mm-hmm.
But by this point, because like more of doing something, more of God doing something for me, I'm like, well, because like I'm taking this out of proportion, guys. I know that. I was like
No,
doing
you're
something for me, but
good.
I'm like, I need to be doing. I was like, well, yeah, but I also need to be doing something
Mm-hmm.
for God. It's like It's a two way. It's still a two way street. He loves me, but am I loving him?
Sure.
That's what I'm missing.
Yeah.
Because like there's a little bit of a pre-lust when it. I mean, this is why that's what I've come to know is there is a pre-lust that happens when it comes to Protestant Christian music.
Mm-hmm.
Some boys trying because of thankfully it's not for every single artist, but just like for those mainstream guys, it's more of like a when you know you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like in that same advice of love when you know you know, but it's like you also know you know when this is feels a little off, something's a little off color, but I'm like I don't know.
Interesting.
But you can delete my comment though.
No, it's okay. I mean, this is what a panel is for. I value all the different opinions. Like just because you have a different opinion than the others doesn't make it invalid. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I guess my perspective is that I think he's just trying to be. He probably wrote this at a very vulnerable time in his life, and
Yeah. Okay.
so he was probably just like we were saying. It's kind of like King David, um, where he's like in just in a time where he really needs to see the light,
Mm-hmm.
and he's not really feeling it that much. And you know what? That's we go through those times, and that doesn't mean that we should stay in those times and that
Right.
that it's good, but it's real and it's a part of the human experience. I mean, even Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Which was, I believe, a direct quote from
Psalm
uh
22.
yeah, there you go. um and so yeah, we sometimes just feel those times where it's like, God, I still love you, and I want to I'm going to remain faithful to you, but right now I'm in such
Yeah.
a situation where I can't see where
Mm-hmm.
you're working,
Yeah.
and I do understand how sometimes it kind of seems to be a problem in, especially in the Christian indie music scene, where that is encouraged too much, and so I think that we can, err on the side of caution with that. But right now, with the context of Bear Reinhardt, I think it's okay. It's understandable, because he is still like the rest of the song. He's still saying about how much he loves God and such. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
why I said more. That's more of why I said probably delete my comment because I'm probably missing loads
Oh,
of
it's all good.
context.
I mean, you're probably not the only one who has those concerns.
Yeah.
So unless you feel really strongly about it, I'm gonna keep it in. So yeah. All right. Well, I personally think that they're pretty two strong singles.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to hear the rest of the album. So, which I believe, does Spotify say? Um,
February.
oh yeah, it'll be released next year, February 7th, 2025. So cool. So those are Hide Anymore and Devil in My Eyes by Wilder Woods. Um, and last but not least, at least I don't know, maybe it is least. I don't know. Speaking of some folk rock, we've got Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors coming out with a surprise sequel to his album Strangers No More. At least I didn't know that he was going to come out with a volume 2, but yeah, Strangers No More volume 2. And I don't know if either of you guys, I mean, I didn't tell you to do this, but I don't know if either of you guys got a chance to listen to the first album. But I personally, I really liked Strangers No More. I thought it was fine. Um, I one thing I appreciated about the first one is how it progresses from being like more folky, but as the album goes on, it goes into a bit more rock near the
Okay.
end. And so
Mm.
so I was interested to see if this album would be any similar. And comparatively, I I think I think the album is fine. but for me, it was a little bit underwhelming. Um, I think that Drew Holcomb is kind of at the stage where it seems that he's kind of releasing the same sound uh with every release, cuz I am a fan of Drew Holcomb, but it seems that a lot of the music that he's releasing lately they just kind of sound like each other, and there's not a whole lot of variety. So not to say that this album is bad. I think it's good. It's got some good jams on there that I enjoy. I really liked the first song with Vince Gill, Green Light. I think it's a lot of fun. Um, Suffering is good. It was one of the lead singles off of it. Um, I liked the sound of moving water. Um, Burn was really good. I think that was one of my favorite ones. But the album kind of loses me with the last few tracks. It gets a little kind of a little stale personally, just nothing really of note about it. So I don't know. I guess I didn't feel a strong connection with this album other than the few tracks that I really liked. Um so I don't know. It's kind of like a 6 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
I don't really often give scores, but I
You
guess
have to
that's
on
like
this
how
one.
I guess it just properly communicates exactly how I feel about it, especially in comparison to the other album. I just didn't think it was really as good as the previous one. So I don't know. Josh, did you have any strong feelings about this album?
Not strong feelings. I have glimpses of flashes of parts I liked. Wasn't any particular song that stood out, but I think I'll have a better understanding if I listen to Volume One and then go
Mm.
into Volume Two, because creatively, there's a reason you do it. Volume One, Volume Two, because you try to like
Yeah.
continue that theme or a set of themes. So if I can start at the beginning and then lead into it, I might get a better appreciation for it. But it was, I think I agree with
Yeah.
your 6 out of 10. It's just like I like certain parts and aspects, but I don't know. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, I think you'll like Volume 1 better.
okay,
Um for me, I don't really see the reason why there's a Volume 2, really. Like
okay,
creatively, I don't really understand why.
okay,
Um but I don't know. Maybe there's some social media post that he made that I just missed or something.
okay.
Um but Nick, what were your feelings on this album if you got to listen to it?
I actually don't know if I did, but most likely I did not.
Okay.
It might have
That's
been
okay.
it might have been that album I forgot to or missed to listen to it. So I have no humble opinion. My humble opinion
Oh.
is I have none.
So, I mean, I guess that's kind of an opinion there, is like that you just maybe even if you did listen to it, you forgot about it, which I don't know. I don't know if I would blame you, but um that's fine. Yeah, it doesn't seem like either of us really feel or any of us really feel strongly about it. I will say it was the lead single off the album, but Souls of Camera, I don't really like that song personally. I think it's kind of a weird uh it's a weird hook for the song, like, and title, and like Souls of Camera as like I don't know, it's weird. I mean, I guess the rest of the song is fine. I like the verses. But I guess I don't really like the phrase Souls of Camera and like how they fit it into the song. It's just kind of makes it kind of clunky in my opinion. But yeah, so I don't know if you guys are Drew Holcomb fans, you might like it because it's an inoffensive album. And there are tracks that I really like that I'll probably learn to like even more.
hmm
But as an album, just kind of forgettable. So I don't know. That's the raving review that we got for Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors, Strangers No More, Volume 2. My recommendation is to check out Volume 1. I liked that album, so.
My baby, she's a green light. Ain't never seen a stop sign. Umbrella in a rainstorm. A cup of coffee in the morning.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, that's I guess that's our humble opinion for those things. Thank you guys for sharing your humble opinions. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought about them. And yeah, so we're getting to the end of the episode now. But what we're going to talk about next in the next episode, which I have not told you guys, but it's going to be a little topical. We're going to do another topical episode just because we've had so many interview episodes as of late. We got a couple things that I wanted to talk about. Mostly, they're pretty much both stories having to do with the alternative punk hardcore scene. So it should be fun. But
Ooh, sweet.
I wanted to talk about the recent announcement that Van's Warped Tour is coming back.
Yeah, I did see that.
And basically what that has to do with the Christian scene and how that could affect it. You know, I think it would be a fun topic. So that should be fun. And I also wanted to talk about this recent story. Excuse me, sorry. Concerning the band. Sorry, Josh is getting in his car.
Yeah.
He's literally leaving the episode.
My goodness.
So I wanted to talk about this recent story with the band Bloodlines, which
Love them. Love them.
see
Oh,
here's
yeah.
the thing is that I never really listened to their music,
Me
but
neither.
at least as far as I know. But there was this recent story. I don't know if you guys heard.
Oh yeah, I did.
This attention because they dared to speak out against pornography at one of their shows. I mean, they probably do it at every show, but like it got a lot of media attention. So we're gonna talk about that, and so I think both of those are going to be really fun to talk about. So yeah, as far as I know, that's all we're going to talk about in the next episode. So it should be fun, and I hope you guys will tune into that. Once again, for the millionth time, thank you so much to John James for being on the show, and I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. It was a lot of fun, and it was a dream come true for me. Give us some support. You know, all you got to do is, you know, leave a like or comment on the video, or at the very least subscribe. And, you know, it makes us look good so that we can have cool guests like that on again. And so yeah, really appreciate it, you guys. I mean, you're the reason why we do what we do. Oh, yeah, Josh is gone.
Oops.
I think he tried driving away and then we just lost him. So that's okay. I'm prolonging this ending long enough. So, all right. Well, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah.
Any closing remarks, Nick?
I am not Clifford today, but he is.
I am. I'm Clifford today, and you're not. You guys have a lovely week, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Hey, I see ya.
Hey, this is Stephen Christian from Amberlin. If you like this video, be sure to leave a like, and also feel free to subscribe to I'm Clifford Today. For those of you listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating and a review. Also, be sure to check out Clifford's Clips and Highlights channel. I'm Clifford Today. If you want to hear more from Clifford, check out his other podcast, Podwood Forecast. And there's always t-shirts and other merch you can buy, so be sure to take a look at that. There are links to everything in the episode description, so thanks for stopping by, and remember, he's Clifford Today, and you're not.